This is Ted at FireBoard Labs. We are back in our Kansas City HQ. And so this video series, we're gonna go over our selective line. And if you've joined us or if you've checked out our other videos, I know we've got a whole series of videos on our surface mount line. And so in our new headquarters, we actually have both. We have what we basically call a selective line. I'm gonna walk you guys through this in a few different videos, but it consists of two different main machines, a selective solder and a selective coating machine. But then to support that line, we actually have these really cool unloading and loading conveyors. So this will be a quick video. I just want to walk you guys through this as kind of like just a little bit of a show and tell, kind of what we've built here. It's kind of fun. One thing that we learned when we did our selective line is we learned that the process of loading boards and unloading boards can kind of chew up a lot of time for the operator. And of course, those of you who are familiar with this process, there's all sorts of conveyors out there you can buy to solve these issues, right? We've solved it differently for our selective line. We've kind of used some longer conveyors, about yay long. And you can kind of place boards in queue, and that conveyor will slowly advance and then load those 3 or 4 boards into our line. So it's kind of like a poor man's solution to a loading and unloading conveyor. What we did for this line, and by the way, this line we put in 2022. So at this point, it's a couple years old. We bought some used loading and unloading conveyors. And I think this one, the brand is a Simplematic. So what's really cool about these is they take these magazines, and these magazines have slots for all the boards. And so you load up your boards in this magazine, and then you feed this whole magazine into this conveyor. So it literally will take one board out, so unload, so it's unloading the conveyor. So the terminology is a little confusing, but it's unloading the conveyor, it's unloading the magazine and then loading that board onto your assembly line and then into the first machine. So we've got the loading conveyor that starts, and by the way, we bought these as a pair. They were used, I'm not sure what vintage these are. I think they're like early 2000s. So I mean, they're about 15, 20 years old. We spent about $11,000 on the pair together. So I would encourage you guys, if you're trying to look into building a line like this, if you're looking into the cost, if you're trying to model this stuff out, and we might even share some of those numbers a little bit more. But I would encourage you guys to check out some of the used equipment, the electronics equipment, manufacturing equipment. There's a lot of stuff out there, and it's really reasonably priced. And for things like conveyors, like our reflow oven, which was another video we did, and check that out, doing our surface mount reflow oven. For those types of things, I would encourage people to check out the used equipment. You get so much more bang for your buck. And if the conveyor or the oven is a relatively simple process, if that process is simple, then a used piece of equipment is fine. For other things that are a little bit more intense and high speed and require like a ton of precision, like the pick and place machine, and that was another video we did. We bought that machine new. We also bought this selective solder machine new. Again, we wanted those more complicated kind of industrial processes to really be dialed in and working great kind of on day one. So we bought those machines new. So anyway, we have this unloading here, and then we'll walk over real fast to the loading conveyor. And so what happens is it passes through, there's 2 different machines, and then it passes back into this loading conveyor. It reloads the magazine. Very simple PLC style controller. It does run on air. There's a lot of clamps and different things to sort of allow that magazine to travel in, travel out. The other cool thing, so we actually have, I mentioned a selective coating machine. The boards will come through and get coated, and then they'll be loaded into this magazine. And then because it's kind of queuing up over time, those boards can kind of self-ventilate, and it's a really flat, nice place for those boards to start drying and curing on that conformal coating. And of course, we have the ventilated space here with our assembly line, which is nice. And then as that magazine fills up, then that whole magazine will slide out of this machine, which is kind of cool. And then you can actually take another magazine, and the entire magazine, you can see, can be placed up here. And essentially the machine will then load this magazine, waiting for it to be fed in as the other one's filled. So the whole process, and that, you can fill up probably, I'm going to say about 20, 30 boards depending on the pitch that you set on those magazines. So then you go from a scenario where somebody, instead of having to stand there or make sure they're grabbing these boards as they come out, you can basically run this more or less automated. And so that was our goal with kind of these conveyors, is to make sure this line could be as automated as possible. That was really the driver behind our decision. And it does actually shorten. That's the other benefit from a physical space. You can kind of, even though this looks kind of like an L-shaped conveyor, it has the effect of not having a super long, like we have a really long conveyor down at the end of the surface mount line that kind of catches boards. Well, instead, we just have a shorter conveyor and it just queues up in the magazine. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, wanted to show you guys these conveyors, kind of fun stuff. Check out all of our other videos on electronics manufacturing and all of our surface mount stuff. See you later.